I'll even turn the phone upside down so it's less conspicuous.
And nobody will know.
No one will know.
Hey, are you guys doing a school project out here?
So what were you saying?
Oh, I was talking about how it's interesting when you think about forms of intimacy and the way that intimacy is put into these boxes of who is what kind of relationships are allowed to perform intimacy.
Yeah.
And tattooing, however, is it is an invasive thing.
Yeah.
And there is actually a form of penetration happening, which
Literally.
is really interesting. And I think I would consider that a form of intimacy. We can look at, like, how barriers are broken down, especially if you're talking about it in a sense of, like, bartering, right?
Yeah.
There's that, I think that trade and the detachment from currency becomes even more of a close experience, I would say. Then it's a lot more personal to, I guess, gift than it is to just pay for something.
It feels weirdly, like, wrong to charge a set amount of money for tattoos to me.
Yeah.
And, like, also just because I don't really feel that I do it as a business or feel that I want to do it as a business, because it's so intimate and so personal and so, like, you are altering somebody's body forever, and it's already such a gift to, like, have somebody want my artwork on them, you know? That's the end of episode 1.
On the topic of, like, permanence and stuff,
Yeah.
there's something very interesting as well. I'm not a fan of currency as a whole.
Me either. I hate currency.
I'm a little bit
Fuck
anti-currency.
currency. All my homies hate currency.
And I think a big reason that I am not a fan of that way that, pardon the use of the word society, but the way that our society is anchored on something that is, like, it's very disposable. Like, you work to make money so that you can have money to spend money, so that then you can save up and spend more money. Where it's like, if we're talking about something that is a permanent piece of artwork that is on your person, it is very weird to me to engage with a system that is designed to uphold, like, a very capitalistic way of life, but also that is so, like, it's a little bit meaningless. Like,
It is, yeah. Like, it's...
money doesn't mean very much, whereas, like, if you tailor something to somebody, if we're doing, like, a barter system, there is thought put into that.
Yeah.
And it's like you are both having needs met, whether that is, if we think about, like, joy as a need, tattoos bring me joy.
Yeah.
I need that to sustain myself. And then, like, other stuff too. Like, earlier we were talking about, like baking as, like, something to provide as, like, this kind of, like, exchange.
Episode 1, season 1, episode 2, pool party.
Oh, thank God it's a pool party episode.
It's a pool party episode. I wonder what's gonna happen at the pool party.
I think when a lot of people hear about, like, barter systems over currency systems, they're like, well, what if you get something useless? And it's like, well, that's why, like, there's a connection point there.
Yeah, that's why it's barter.
Yeah.
That's why it's not just random trade. You're supposed to...
You get an old pipe that I found on the ground.
Yeah. No, I really like that, because, like, money doesn't mean anything. You know, like, money doesn't mean anything to me. And it won't ever. Like, I will use it because I have to. But, like, for things like art, I always feel so strange trading in meaningless currency.
Yeah, because it really is just a placeholder for,
It
like,
is.
Money is like saying, if I have this much money, I'm going to have something of equal value at some point.
Okay.
I love that they turn clear.
Yeah. It's really special.
I think also, like, when you were talking about that, I was thinking about, like outward expressions and stuff like that, and attaching currency to outward kind of expressions of the self.
True.
Whoa.
That's a
university,
crazy one.
University line.
Attaching, what did you say there?
I don't even know.
Attaching out external expressions to notions of the self or whatever. Whatever it is. To currency.
But
Oh, gosh.
Like, when people have, like, designer clothes, they're constantly thinking about how much that cost.
Yeah.
But, like, tattoos are an interesting one because I don't think I even remember how much the majority of my
I don't remember most of mine
tattoos
either.
cost.
And I don't, like, and it's,
Yeah.
and nobody will ever ask. Because people ask about my tattoos all the time, you know?
yeah.
And I think it's evocative, it's indicative of something, like, special to be able to say, like these ones I did myself, and these ones were done by my friends, and these ones, like, were done by, like, people in my community. And like this one, like my shell tattoo was from New Zealand, you know? And like tattoos just, like, even if we take it outside of, like, currency and the method of paying for them, they are just so, like, the people who do them really matter a lot, I find. And if I get it, I've never had this experience yet because all my tattoos have been done by cool people, but I feel that if I were to get a tattoo by a person that I feel doesn't care about, like, about me or about tattooing or about our relationship in that moment, I feel like it would just feel kind of bad to have, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I wouldn't enjoy having that on my body, because part of the reason why I love my tattoos so much isn't even because of the actual designs, all of it. It's just, like, because I had a beautiful moment of just, like, human connection through designing and collaborating on an artwork on the body, which is, like, a cool thing that we can do. And I love helping other people, like, in their journey of learning how to do that, and I love giving it back in exchange. And it's a cool art form that, like, is so optimal for trade.
When I was getting a different one done, the person who was doing it for me, very cool guy, but he was talking about how, like, it's so weird that there's, like, schools to learn how to tattoo.
It is really weird.
It's very bizarre, and he's like,
strange.
When I was growing up, like, because he's an older guy, he was like, this was like an outsider culture thing. Like, you can't go to school to learn how to do a skill like this. You have to learn from your community.
And I think that's something really beautiful and, like, special about it. And, like, it should be a thing that is, like, within communities.
Especially stick and poke is very much a symbol that, like, you are ingrained with that community.
Yeah, true.
Which is very, very cool.
Yeah, stick and pokes are so special, I think. Because also just they take so much longer and they feel so much more, like, personal to me.
Yeah.
I've never actually given a machine tattoo because my machine broke before I used it on a person.
See ya.
But I really, like, I always like the process of giving stick and poke tattoos because I feel like it's a very nice moment to just sit with a person in, like, silence and or conversation and exchange a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
It's so fun and cool.
Yeah.
And I like it.
That's, like, I very much relate to that anytime I've done, like, a tattoo for somebody, because I only do stick and poke as well.
Yeah.
It's, like, I mostly remember the conversations I have with the person.
Me too, yeah.
And, like, not a whole lot else. Like,
yeah. I just zone out while I do the tattoo, because, like, I'm just tracing the lines. Like, I don't have to really think about what I'm drawing. I'm just sort of, we're sharing a moment, and I feel like it's a lot, like, it's not only about the getting the tattoo, but it's about, like, spending that time.
I guess, like, in that sense, it's also interesting to think about it in, like, a therapeutic kind of sense.
True.
There's
Are we gonna bring up the self-harm of it all?
I was gonna say, like, there is something therapeutic about, like, controlled pain.
Very.
Which I think isn't, this is my hot take, is I don't actually think that's always a bad thing.
I don't either.
As somebody who has, like, sensory, I'll say, like, sensory struggles.
Yeah. sensory struggles.
Isn't it? It's
Yeah,
so
it's
real,
true.
yeah. But like, I think like the act of tattooing and like you were saying, just following the lines, you can get into this kind of groove where you're just being there, being present with somebody, and then you're not thinking about anything else because you're so focused on like this task that is like, it's like a pretty meaningful thing, and so it's hard to think about anything else.
Yeah, and it's just a physically overwhelming feeling as well.
Yeah.
But I do find that that's kind of like nice because like a lot of the time I can only really like focus on one thing when it's a like very strong physical sensation.
Yeah.
And so like getting tattooed is an enjoyable experience because like it is a controlled physical pain that you're getting done by like a trusted person who you know is not gonna like hurt you too much, and it's not yourself, you know. And so it's just sort of a nice moment where you can I feel that I can genuinely just like rest and sort of spend like a time where my body feels like it's not frantic.
Yeah. I think that like in a way that also that kind of idea connects to, I think it connects to like kink in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And like, because I think a lot of people believe that like stuff like BDSM is specifically sexual.
Yeah.
And it's really not.
It's not.
If you're like in the community, there's
yeah.
many different ways that you can perform BDSM kinds of activities, whether it be like, you know, actual intensive stuff, or even just like what's a good example? Like knife play stuff of like just grazing a knife across somebody, not doing anything.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, I think it is very similar. And these are all forms of, I would say, like outsider ways to perform therapy in a way that are based around like intimacy and trust.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Really, really true. The queerness of it all, of intimacy not being a sexual thing.
Yeah.
And I'm such a supporter of this.
Same! I love
like,
it!
de-sexualify physical intimacy.
Like, actually, yeah.
Actually. And, like, because it is not inherently so. And that is, dare I even say, only caused by society.
Oh, it really is.
It's society, like, and it's so, like, therapeutic and healing and genuinely, like, human, I feel, to have like physical connections to people without that having societal connotations.
Yeah. It's interesting because like historically, I think like rules around intimacy are a very Western thing.
Western, yeah.
And also like when you think about the grand scheme of like time, I'm sure that it's a relatively like newer thing.
Well, like,
when
especially the way we
about,
think
like,
about it right now, like, even if you just think about Western notions of gender, they are very, very new in the grand scheme. And, like, the creation of the nuclear family and, like, the family unit existence as a singular, separate thing that from other people, from community, like, kind of inherently made intimacy this closed-off, locked box behind, like, a suburban house.
And also like just like the way you view your own body.
Yeah.
Like as well, like talking about like the history of like different forms of intimacy. If you think about it in like a feminist lens, women were all over each other historically. You would dress other women and stuff like that. It's really common still in many places to communally bathe. And so it's very strange that it has become so isolated. Like,
yeah, it really is. And now, to quote.
To quote the quotes.
To quote the quotes. I'm gonna flash them on the screen as tiny little footnotes. And what's anybody gonna do about it?
They're gonna say, oh, I saw that.
You saw that? You see that little footnote there? Mm-hmm. I feel pretentious and silly for this. No, I think we're good.
Yeah, I don't even know that you need a proper conclusion.
No conclusion.
Yeah. Bow wow.
I've got a special power. to you.